Alrighty, back for round two of Grand Prix Estrathe. Opponent is Drake XIV on white blue tempo, mostly blue tempo at this point, but there is still the white splash for gentle grasps, and a single symbol of revolution. I'm nervous about this matchup. I'm very nervous. I think so much of this matchup is just going to come down to the die roll here, and we lost with a 5 against a 7. So I'm a little nervous, especially seeing that I'm on the draw here. Hmm. Nervous, but that is one of the better hands we could ask for. Turn 1 Ignited Soul, turn 2 Ignited Soul is really difficult for our opponent to punch through, just lets us get the engine rolling. They can't really meaningfully block the Ignited Soul ever. Or at least it is very difficult for them to meaningfully block the Ignited Soul. Just because so much of their deck revolves around the 2-drop slot, both the creatures and the counter magic, and a lot of their most important creatures have 1 toughness, so they don't necessarily want to block. There is, of course, not Looming Scyhawk. There is, hold on, I have their deck open. Sleeper Strix. Sleeper Strix is their one big way of like sort of stalling out my 1-drops, but they need that alongside a second creature. I'm gonna keep this. With the expectation that my pitch to redevelop Cityscape is most likely Deep Treader Arcanist here. But if I can find the island, I would not mind just playing the Deep Treader Arcanist at some point. I'm going to keep 7 as well. Nice to have a 7 card hand that I can keep after that 4 card opener last round. Redevelop Cityscape. Love to see that. Opponent pitching an island from hand. Presumably going to find island plains. Yep, there's the 1 plains, and then the island. Island to hand. Interesting. Don't think that is like a signal that they've got Symbol of the Revolution in hand, but just something to be aware of that is a 1 of in their deck. Ephemeral Mire is interesting. This is a win condition through them and their counter magic for sure. Yeah, let's just Swamp and Ignited Soul here. And then pass. I'm actually going to close the player window just to have a better look at the chat here. If folks start spectating, then I hope they enjoy, but want to just sort of focus on the things that are most pressing here, especially with such a complex matchup. Yep, there is the 1 of Symbol. Holding up a blue, this could be for Sleeper Strix. If they had a Spellbane Sentinel, I assume it would have come down there. Oh, whoops, I draw first and then I go to main 1. Second Clowna is not too shabby. I'm not certain if the play here is to run out the Ephemeral Mire or the redeveloped Cityscape. Let's probe for information first. I'd like to move to combat, see if my opponent has any responses to start a combat. Okay. Clear to attack, so gonna get in for the 1. On damage, I will discard Writhling to draw a card. There's the Chitters. And then main 2. I can redevelop Cityscape here, set myself up to know that I can play Glauna next turn, or I can Ephemeral Mire and just sort of leave myself a little more open. There's also the question of, if I Cityscape, do I pitch the Deep Treader Arcanist, or do I go like get the island in second Swamp and then pitch like the Chitter and Gargantua, knowing that that's going to be really difficult to put into play right now. I think so. This is always happening. I'm always putting Ignited Soul on the stack here. I'm just gonna separate these. I think I always play the redeveloped Cityscape because it gives me more options going into my next turn. And I'm just going to sort of need to take their turn to think about what I'm doing. Ebb and Flow? It is the Sleeper Strix. Okay. Interesting. I suppose treating the Symbol of Revolution for the Ignited Soul not the most appealing line of action. Pool of Light here for our opponent. Nightmare Scenario, I feel here is just them jamming a Parapet Awakener before I can meaningfully do anything about it. I just absolutely always take 3. No Parapet Awakener, please. All right, just passing. I think I'm going to pitch the Gargantua on an empty board here. I want to, or on, not necessarily an empty board, but just sort of with my opponent having left all their mana up and only 1 card in my graveyard. Right now, the Gargantua is not the primary plan of action. Getting Island Swamp. Island tapped, Swamp to hand. We can go ahead and untap here. And then draw. Omen of Deception is nice to see here. Nitrous Elemental is a thing that could be coming, something you do have to be prepared for. So we could think about having something hang back to block the Symbol of Revolution. The symbol is something to be wary of. Opponent's got 4 cards in hand. There's merit to just develop Ephemeral Mire, swing, don't discard. Because then I develop this. My opponent has no way of killing this. It costs 3 to activate right now. 2 if I can get the Omen into play. They know I've got the Swamp in hand. Just apologizing for taking up so much time here, really considering my options. So I think, as much as I would love to Glauna the Symbol of the Revolution before they can start to like activate it and get value from it, I think any turn where my opponent is activating the symbol is fine by me. The question really is, am I developing Deep Treader Arcanist, or am I trying to just Ephemeral Mire here? Because if I'm developing the Deep Treader Arcanist, I already pulled up a Subway Surfer video to distract themselves. All right. If I want to develop the Deep Treader Arcanist, I have to give up the Omen of Deception. I think the fact that I can't double spell no matter what I do means I'm always running out the Ephemeral Mire here. And then let's go to combat. I wonder, maybe I only attack with 1. Hang back to block the Symbol of the Revolution? Yeah. Go to damage. I believe that is a May. No discard. Something that strikes the fear in the heart of my opponent, hopefully. Tapping 2 for Nitrous Elemental. They could have Veto up if I go for the Omen here. I think I do just have to take this opportunity, though. If they've got the veto, they've got the veto. Then it's being used on Omen and not Glauna. Yep, they've got the veto. So Omen down, but that is a counterspell out of their hand. They're down to 2 in hand. Sleeper Strix is now a 2/2. Symbol could get +1/+0 if it becomes activated. So in theory, 1 mana to activate it just grants it all those keywords without changing its stat line at all, because it effectively becomes a 1/1 with +1/+0 when it gains flying. This is starting to look a little sketchy. I won't deny. Hmm. Yep, Sleep Restricts just tap down the Ignited Soul here. I take 6. So one card in my opponent's hand. If it is the counter spell, I'm screaming. I untap and draw. That is a Rivaling. So notably, if they have a counter spell, I can just Rivaling eat their redeveloped cityscape. And I want to do that over the veto because if I hit a Lurking Virkolakis, targeting them seems more preferable than targeting my own graveyard. Um, I could I could just go Ignited Soul, swing in both before doing anything. Yeah, go to combat. If they've got the third Sleep Restricts, they could think about playing it here. Um, but I feel like they would just do that after attackers are declared to ambush my Ignited Soul. Okay. I'm going to swing in with both. And if they have the ambush, that's fine. I still get to connect. So go to damage. They take 2. Um, target myself with both. First one, I will discard the Rivaling to draw. Second one, I will discard the Zixthax Apex to draw. Find a swamp. Now we go to second main phase. I can play the swamp and tap 3 for Glauna. And if they've got the interaction, they've got the interaction. Oh, all good. Go to 1, target the Nitrous Elemental. Social engineering the Nitrous Elemental. So that's going to put the 2 damage into keep the damage in play, and then allow them to swing for an additional 3 next turn, which is lethal. Yeah. This is a matchup I kind of figured was just going to be an endlessly uphill struggle. I'm just going to concede here. There is nothing I can do. They have lethal on the crackback with that Nitrous Elemental in hand now. Rough stuff. So this is going to be quite the uphill struggle. I know I want Maim, the extra counter spells for sure, and then Invasion of Privacy is a maybe. As far as main deck goes, I think the Scrapyard Mechas are just a little too clunky. If I can get one in play, it's very difficult for them to deal with in theory, but in practice, Scatter the Signal not only blows up my Feast of Whispered Knives, not only picks away an important thing out of my graveyard, but can also blow up the mecha, so just giving them less hits on their Scatter the Signal seems appealing. Um, Otherwise, Invasion of Privacy, I'm thinking about. I'm also thinking about maybe the Ephemeral Mire there was just not quite enough. Um, Difficult to know. I don't want to go down on Rivaling or Lurking Virkolakis or the Gargantuas because I only have so many ways of eating my graveyard, and I've just gone down on 3. Um, don't really want the Beauclair Scorns. The things that are killing me are not going to be countered by it. Like, I'm not really looking to Beauclair Scorn a Social Engineering or a Gentle Grasp. I could see the Invasion of Privacy being necessary, though. No, I don't actually think I like this, just because this is a case where giving my opponent something that replaces the card I took from them does not seem great. So I don't think I want the invasion of privacy. So it really comes down to what is the next most clunky thing I have going, and it is sort of just a question of like, do I cut the third Glauna or do I cut the ephemeral Mire? I think I cut the Mire. As nice as the Mire is, Glauna is removal for their creatures. Mire is a tapped land in a matchup where I just need to sort of always be putting things into play untapped. Like if I could reasonably trim the redeveloped cityscapes, I would here, I think. This is the case where I would much prefer these to be nudified, but unfortunately, no real choice on that. As far as what my opponent is boarding, I think Scatter the Signal, Turn to Nyx are the most reasonable things to board in. This does just like blow up my enchantment, blow up my like an important thing in my graveyard. Turn to Nyx takes advantage of the fact that I am a graveyard deck. I think Veto, despite it being very solid there, is not generally going to be very good just because like it counters Feast and Glauna and maybe Omen of Deception, and that's kind of it. And they are going to have a hard time getting this to do more than just one. Their Symbol of Revolution was the only white creature in their deck. They happened to have the singular white creature in their deck in their opener. But other than that, I don't think the Veto is super good, and I could see them like trimming the Shrine and the Symbol of Revolution to buy those extra 2 slots for the 2 Turn to Nyx. So, gonna go like that. Cut the tap land, cut the mechas. Okay, and Zero Lander. Mull to 6. This is workable. It's not stellar. I want to put Arcanist into play turn 1, preferably, but keep 6. Gargantua's got to go to the bottom. Main 1, Swamp and Pass. Case where maybe I wouldn't mind having the redeveloped cityscape just to go like pitch the extra swamp in my hand. We'll draw the island, play Flooded Morris. Just run out the Deep Treader Arcanist. They seriously had the Sleeper Strix again? Oh, this is brutal. And that thing just completely walls the Arcanist. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I went into this round kind of suspecting that if I was going to get a matchup where there was a guaranteed loss, it was the tempo deck. I think blue white tempo is just a stronger tempo plan than blue black. I think it is just far more stable, relies on better creatures, better individual pieces. Whereas blue black tempo is much more synergy based. Gonna get to draw here. Go to combat. Swing the Deep Treader Arcanist. I will draw a card and discard this island. Right, they take 1. Gonna go Swamp into Ignited Soul. And then just pass. If they've got the Nitrous Elemental, I will maim it immediately before they can untap. Second Sleeper Strix. Sure thing. I was going to say, if that's a third Sleeper Strix, I'm going to lose my mind. Oh, I think they're waiting on me to tell them that they're okay. I was just like, we're sitting here for a little while and they're not looking at the top card. But yeah, no, that's fine. Ebb and flow is permitted. There was a consideration that maybe I pitched the Deep Treader Arcanist here, but I think that gives them some very needed information as far as what I'm doing that I'm not super keen on giving them generally. Yeah, I take two. That's always happening. Putting planes into play and then passing. We'll draw that island, which is nice. Draw an island, not that island. That island's gone. Let's just go right to combat. See if they flash in another Sleeper Strix. They're saying okay. Yeah, so I'm going to draw and then discard the Writhling, I think. As far as Ignited Soul, I think I am going to pitch the Deep Treader Arcanist to draw. Get the second Lurks. Interesting. Going to play Island and run out of Lurks here. Just see what they have to say about it. I think the first thing Lurking Virkolakis is going to do here is eat my Writhling if I have the opportunity to. I feel like if there is any creature in my deck that is going to immediately demand counter magic, it is Lurking Virkolakis. Yep, opponent is rightly thinking as a result. This makes me suspect that they don't have a veto in hand, because if they had a veto, they would probably just snap off the counter magic in anticipation of being able to veto like an Omen of Deception. They're going to turn to Nyx the Lurking Virkolakis. That is fine. I would like to try again. Target myself. Eat the Writhling. I will gain 1. This will get a counter. And I will draw a card. There's the Agent of Deception. And I will pass. This is something they're going to have to deal with. As far as targeted removal, they could social engineering it, but that's kind of the extent of what they can do for like removal. They could like bounce it and sort of prime another counterspell for it. Otherwise, they need like Revolutionary Class. That is the nice thing about playing against their tempo deck, is that once a creature sticks, they are not super equipped to deal with said creature. In the case of something like Chittering Gargantua, they can social engineering it, which becomes very disruptive and annoying. Them passing makes me think they're going to social agenda my Lurking Virkolakis here. Untap and draw. Another Lurks. I would like to go to combat. If they've got the Sleeper Strix or the social engineering, they probably do it before attacks to keep me from swinging in with the Lurking Virkolakis. So, thinking through hypotheticals here. We know opponent's thinking. We have to consider what they're thinking about. On 4 cards, they could be looking at flashing in Nitrous Elemental or Agent of Deception just as a blocker after attackers are declared. Obviously, if they've got a Sleeper Strix, they're thinking about doing this before combat. A Nitrous Elemental is not enough to meaningfully eat my Lurking Virkolakis. Okay, they're just giving the thumbs up to swing. I would like to swing with the squad. Resolving Virkolakis before I draw and discard. There is a world where resolving Arcanist first and seeing if I can get an Apex into my graveyard is something, but I think for now I want to minimize the information that they get, and this is the perfect sort of like Arcanist just get past a land situation here. So we'll just pitch that island. Okay, before blocks. Kind of saw this one coming. Social engineering after the Virkolakis trigger. So they're going to bounce the Virkolakis and then presumably block the Deep Treader Arcanist. So this gets bounced. They make a 1/1 robot, 0/0 with a counter. And then go to blocks here. And then if they had anything else they wanted to do, they could always just tell me, like, still before blocks. Okay, they're just going to take the 2. Damage. Going to choose not to discard. Second main, let's go ahead for the Lurking Virkolakis again. Dream here is they try and respond with an Agent of Deception. They do not, so I'm just going to target their graveyard. Presumably, yeah, pick away the turn to Nyx. So I grow the Virkolakis and gain 1, and I may just bank and hold up Agent of Deception or Maim rather than developing the second Virkolakis, just because they've got the 2 mana up, and I'd rather wait to see what they're trying to do here. If this is a Nitrous Elemental, I'm going to Agent of Deception it. They're not playing out a Nitrous Elemental here. And this is the fun thing. I've got counter magic too. Redeveloped Cityscape is interesting. That is going to force my Virkolakis to have to either eat through a land and not grow, or the alternative is I'm going to have to start targeting my own graveyard, which is not terrible. Like, the mechas are gone, so the things that eat my graveyard are Gargantua, Rivaling, and Virkolakis, and the Rivaling can target my opponent's graveyard. And that said, I don't think I'm playing Rivaling at this stage of the game. I think I'm always discarding it, because then I can target it out of my own graveyard with Virkolakis. Excuse me. Little too fast to mute on that. That's going to probably not sound super great on audio. I'll untap and draw. That's a feast of Whispered Knives, huh? So, what's my opponent got in hand? They've got 3 cards. They played Redeveloped Cityscape, which tells me either they're intending to throw away a card in their hand, or they're just getting this in play for the eventuality where they do want to throw something away. Which means either they're sitting on 2 playables, or 3 playables, but one of those playables is largely irrelevant to them in this situation. I think Another thing that is important is because they're holding up redeveloped Cityscape, if I target them with Lurking Virkolakis, they can make the choice to crack it before resolving Virkolakis. But I think that's fine by me because that gives me the opportunity to make a more informed decision around what I'm playing. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to click Start a Combat and wait to see if they are cool with me going into swinging. Because if they have another Sleeper Strix, then obviously that changes things. They don't have the Sleeper Strix, so I can Lurking Virkolakis force the redeveloped Cityscape activation, or I can just go for the safety play of Arcanist resolved first, then Virkolakis eats whatever I discard. Or I just eat like the Deep Treader in my graveyard. I want to force them into making choices. Yep, they are going to activate the Cityscape pitching Bouclair's Scorn. Interesting. Didn't think that was something that would be brought in here, but I guess they just want to remove the Feast of Whispered Knives from the equation. So Cityscape, exiled from graveyard. I will draw and discard. And we know one of their cards is an island now. I think in an eventuality where they double block the Virkolakis, which I think is something they're incentivized to do here. Oh, no, they're double blocking the Ignited Soul. Interesting. I am going to try and maim the Sleeper Strix to... No, I don't actually have to maim their Sleeper Strix here. Just communicating intentions here that I would like that to go first. Oh, they're going to try and take game actions. Nitrous Elemental. Actually, that is fine here. So I'm going to say K. That's going to enter. I'm going to attempt to maim the Nitrous Elemental. And now they've either got one more piece of counter magic in hand. That's GG's for my opponent. Holy hell. That was not the game I was expecting to have there. I didn't think I was going to get a game off of White Blue Tempo at all. So that is huge. Just sort of like able to squeeze in the Virkolakis under the gun of counter magic being held up. So something I really have to consider here is, do I want the Chittering Gargantuas at all? I feel like this is actually just a really rough card against my opponent. They have things that can sort of force me to replay it, at which point it becomes far more taxing. I don't ever really want to be sacrificing creatures because creatures are how I level the playing field. So I suppose it really just comes down to, do I want the Bouclair Scorn after all, or do I want the Invasion of Privacy? The Scorn, where that gets me is I can eat away their turn to Nyxes or their social engineerings. I don't think I love that. The problem is I'm not super crazy about Invasion of Privacy either. could just say, like, go up the Soul Guide Lanterns for the sake of having something cheap that I can put into play to trigger Feast of Whispered Knives. I think we're going to do the Invasion of Privacies, though. I think I don't love giving my opponent the card draw. That is something I do not find super exciting about this. That is a cause for why, like, maybe this should just be Agonizing Remorse. Because I think drawing the card is not as good as just, like, nuking something from my opponent. And hey, in a pinch, Agonizing Remorse can just exile a land, so Virkolakis can guaranteed hit my opponent. Actually, hold on. Agonizing Remorse could just hit my own. I can target myself, reveal my hand, exile, exile a Zigzag's Apex. Okay, this. I think. I think that Invasion of Privacy should just be Agonizing Remorse in the future. Oh well. Yeah, no, for the uphill struggle of winning on the draw. That wasn't a mull to 6, notably. Well, this is gonna have to be on a mull to 6 as well. Waiting to see if my opponent keeps before I make a decision. I'm definitely mulliganing. Writhling Virkolakis, Omen Invasion. I don't love Writhling on 1. Because, like, I'm not gonna get to exile anything. And then there's also the question of, do I keep the Invasion or the Glauna? I'm gonna keep the Invasion. As much as I like Glauna for just keeping their board in check. That's a Spellbane Sentinel on 1. Kinda rough. I think I just get the Writhling in play for the sake of getting the 1-drop in play, honestly. I'll untap and draw. We see another Writhling here. I'm almost inclined towards Invasion of Privacy. I'm also tempted to just go Feast of Whispered Knives, bait out the sacrifice on Spellbane Sentinel. I don't know. This is tough. I'm gonna go Island. Gonna go for the Invasion of Privacy. Wow, they kept in veto. Interesting. I will swing 1. They're gonna crack here. Let's open up our opponent's graveyard here, just because we've got the Virkolakis and the second Writhling. And then they take 1, and we pass. So notably, we are both on 4 cards already. Granted, they're drawing up to 5, but pushing some cards out of hand is nice. The dream here is hitting the 3rd land drop. That's a Parapet Awakener. That's a problem. Oh. That is going to overrun the game real fast. I'll untap and draw. Miss out on the 3rd land drop, which is really brutal here with the Spellbane Sentinel sitting in play. We could just develop Feast, sort of force that out of play to shrink the Parapet Awakener. We could just hold up Agent of Deception, which is not super stellar. I'm going to take this opportunity to squeeze a Lurking Fear Colossus into play, actually. And just get rid of the Invasion of Privacy in my graveyard. Because this is going to be able to contend with the Parapet Awakener soon enough. And I'm just going to pass, because obviously the Rivaling isn't going to be very good to get in with. I could have considered swinging the Rivaling just to see if I can bait the block and eat it with Virkolakis, but I think I still value the creature on board a little more. Hmm. Looks like they're thinking about hanging back with the Parapet Awakener, which gives us some information. Notably that I don't think they've got a Sleeper Strix, because if they had it, they would just swing with the Parapet Awakener to hold up Sleeper Strix on the Lurking Virkolakis. They could be doing this trying to hold up Social Engineering to, like, sort of psych me out. Draw a redeveloped Cityscape. I'm going to Rivaling their redeveloped Cityscape here. Oh, actually, hold on. Sorry. Gotta make sure I'm playing properly. Opponent did not indicate that they are good with this resolving. A little bit of me just kind of like tense match, getting in my own head here. Second time they're reading Rivaling. First time being my first turn. They are cool with this. So I'm going to get this into play and target their redeveloped Cityscape. And I don't think I get in with the Lurking Virkolakis here. Maybe that's an argument to not putting the Rivaling into play, actually. Just because, like, this Parapet Awakener does threaten to kill Virkolakis still in the eventuality that they have Flash Flyer, which, I mean, their deck runs, like, 8 of between Nitrous Elementals and Sleeper Strixes. Maybe just holding up the Agent of Deception was better, but I'm going to redevelop Cityscape here and just pass. I maybe should have, like, gone to start a combat, but yeah, a little bit of sloppy play. I should have gone to start a combat, seen if they wanted to do anything before start a combat. There is a consideration here that perhaps I use Redevelop Cityscape. Yeah, there's the Nitrous Elemental. So I was right to not just swing in. I think with that in mind here, this Redevelop Cityscape, I'm going to say K. Vito's non-creature. And not in my list. Nice thing about open deck list, I can tell my opponent that I'm not on a specific card. Getting in for 4. I gotta take 4. Do not really have much of a choice there. I'm gonna crack Redevelop Cityscape Pitch, I think the Omen of Deception. This is actually a tough choice. I could pitch the Agent of Deception rather than the Omen because that lets me. That lets me hold up something more general catch-all that can hit their own counter spells rather than just something that shuts down like counters a creature I have to worry about. I will say, them having the Nitrous Elemental, I shouldn't have played the Wraithling. I wouldn't have been able to counter the Nitrous Elemental, but actually, I think with that in mind, like I'm going to pitch the Agent of Deception because specifically, like this is unless they pay one right now, and they would have been able to pay for the Nitrous Elemental. They'd be able to pay for another one this next turn cycle. So I'm going to get Swamp to play tapped and Island to hand. Untap and draw. Find the Deep Treader Arcanist. Put out an island. I think if there's going to be a counter war over the Feast of Whispered Knives, I want to do it before I know whether or not Lurking Virkolakis is going to be long for this world. And the reason why is if they're holding up a counter spell, we can have a counter war here, and then I know for a fact that they're spent for the turn. Or I go in for combat, I swing the Virkolakis, then we have the counter war, I lose the counter war, and lose the Virkolakis for nothing. The nice thing about the Virkolakis is this little 2-mana 2/2 is holding back a 3-mana 4/4 flyer right now. I think there is a high likelihood my opponent is sitting on a counterspell in the 4 cards in their hand. And in a situation where they are sitting on that, I want them to like invest their Spellbane Sentinel, invest cards from hand. If they have a counterspell in hand, I'm going to Omen of Deception it, provided it is not a veto. If it is a veto, I will just pay for that and then pay for the Spellbane Sentinel and then force them to play another card from hand. I'm gonna go for the Feast of Whispered Knives here. If I ultimately lose this counter war, which is very likely if they have a lot of permission magic here, then so be it. If not, I want to get this in play now. Resolves. Interesting. So now I have a thing to think about here. If they're sitting on... I think I pass. If they're sitting on Scatter the Signal, I think I just have to let it happen because they can counter my Omen of Deception. Maybe I still force the Omen of Deception counter just to shrink the Parapet Awakener. But I think if there's a Scatter the Signal, I need to just like let the Feast go. If there's another Nitrous Elemental, I have to fight over it. Or at least just sort of force the Spellbane Sentinel to go over it. This is tough. This is a tough turn here. I want to develop the Deep Treader Arcanist because that lets the Feast become much more trivial to activate next turn. But the problem is that doesn't let me leave up the Omen. Actually, no. Why am I leaving up the Omen of Deception? They have the counterspell in play, so I just go for the Deep Treader Arcanist here. And if they have interaction for this, then I can swing the Virkolakis and safely pay for the ward cost and Parapet Awakener. I'm going to click Start a Combat this time, play more respectably. Look to see if they say K. If they say K, I'm just going to click End of Turn. No indulgence trigger. I would love it if it did, but as it stands, opponent can pressure for 8 here if they would have wanted to do this main phase 2. Scatter the signal to feast, yeah. Yeah. Kind of figured that might be the case here, especially when they just instantly let it resolve. That's fine. Again, I can't run up the Omen Deception here because of the Spellbane Sentinel. Better to just get the Deep Treader Arcanist in play. If nothing else, Deep Treader can start to dig me deeper towards a maim. And the interesting thing is, I'm still not sure I maim the Parapet Awakener over just like the Nitrous Elemental. Yeah, I have to take 4. Hmm. So my opponent's got me dead in 2 turns. If they've got the Nitrous Elemental, they've got me dead here now. They've got the Nitrous Elemental or the Social Engineering. Not super thrilled about my position here. The problem is they've got me dead next turn with Nitrous Elemental or Social Engineering in their hand, regardless of if I attack with the Lurking Vircolacus. But if I swing with the Vircolacus, I guarantee that I'm dead in 2 turns to the Parapet Awakener being able to freely swing. Whereas if they don't have it, they can swing me down to 7. And then the following turn, I can swing with Vircolacus to at least try and pad my life total. I'm going to swing with the Deep Treader Arcanist. And the Writhelings. I maybe should have been swinging with the Writhelings the whole time. Oh, sorry. Before blocks. Almost skipped the attack trigger. May draw a card. If I do discard a card, draw. That is another feast. Interesting. Gonna pitch the swamp here then. Go to blocks. Damage. This dies. They take 2. Second main. Try for feast again. They tapped an island and then untapped it. Yeah, so notably, if they're looking at going veto Spellbane Sentinel, that doesn't counter feast on its own. It's one of the things where I'm like, I understand the value of veto. I cannot deny this card has absolutely hosed me the times it has been played, but it definitely looks a little awkward in the mid to late game. Early game, it is king though. Can't deny that for a second. Like, 1 mana interaction is just so strong. Turn to Nyx. Sure thing. This Spellbane Sentinel has been so rough. I think if I had gone for the Feast on turn 2 and forced the Spellbane Sentinel out of play, I would have felt much more comfortable about this game. But developing this Lurking Virkolakis through counter magic was also really important. So tough choices all around. Like, if I hadn't developed the Lurking Virkolakis, I think this Parapet Awakener would have just run away with the game much more aggressively than it has. I mean, sometimes you do just, like, luck draw into the third Feast of Whispered Knives, right? Oh, actually, sorry. Still start a combat. Gotta make sure they're cool with me going. All right. They're giving me all clear, so going to go to attacks and swing. Target you. So I gain 1, get a counter on the Virkolakis. Yep. Third Feast. There's still a world where, like, because of the nature of their deck, there's absolutely a world where they can just sort of shut me down from this mattering at all. Yeah, they're thinking. As it stands, this has successfully bought me a turn. Given the all clear. I'm just going to say attempt to move to end step, see if they have the second copy of their 3 of sideboard card. I have been given the all clear. I'm going to indulge trigger thinking. So there's 3 choices here. I can kill the Parapet Awakener, I can kill the Nitrous Elemental, or I can just try and, like, push 2 over the top. I think, man, this Omen Deception just feels so clunky against this Spellbane Sentinel. They can reasonably just social engineering the Parapet Awakener back to hand and then maintain their onboard aggression, but that doesn't kill me unless they draw another flyer. Or sorry, unless they like have an instant speed flyer here as well, at which point I think I'm dead anyways. If I try and kill the Nitrous Elemental and they have social engineering, I guaranteed die. Target the Parapet Awakener. I will pay for the ward cost. Yep, that is the social engineering. If this was targeting Nitrous Elemental, I would be dead here. But instead, they're making a token copy of the Parapet Awakener and returning that to hand. As it stands now, they can... if they've got... Oh, actually, no. Now they've just got me. They swing out, activate Parapet Awakener, make... Oh, no, they don't have me if they go for that line. Because they make 2 gargoyles and only hit me for 10 because this is a token. I don't think it matters if that happens because I can't meaningfully clear 5 creatures in one turn. But hey, that could be a misplay on their part. Would not mind them doing it. But yeah, no, they're just going to play Parapet Awakener back out from their hand, get a 5/4 in play, turn their other thing into a 5/4, swing for 9, take 9. I'll draw. Just a little too late on that MAME there. I needed this MAME like 3 turns ago. All right. Unfortunately, that is going to be match loss here. Sort of just having some back and forth talk with Drake. I think this is a really rough matchup. I think I got some very lucky draws in game 2. But yeah. Alrighty. So that is going to be match number 2. Hate to go down a match here. That does mean I'm going to have to be at the top of my game going into rounds 3 and 4 if I want a shot at the top cut. But sometimes that's just the nature of the tournament. You know, not everybody can go clean sweep. I had the fortune the last few times I've participated in a GP of having pretty clean runs through the Swiss rounds. But unfortunately, just kind of no such luxury here and now. So we'll see how round 3 shapes up. If round 3 ends up being a wash, I will play round 4 regardless, just because, you know, might as well get some fun, get some more magic in. But if not, Or if not, rather than like it being dejected, if not the loss next round, if we do get in, we may still have a shot for the top cut. Curious to see how these next rounds shape up. Hoping I get some better matchups because this one was the nightmare matchup for me. Alrighty, take care, y'all.